Welcome to a new series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Starting off with her first album, If You've Been a Swiftie Since debut, you've probably thought at one point in the last 5 years or so, since when did we start calling it debut? If you've been a Swiftie since debut, you know that Taylor Swift is actually kind of one of the first social media stars turned indie recording artist turned major label recording artist, and you've been there every step of the way. If you've been a Swiftie since debut, that means you probably had a MySpace page, and if you had a MySpace page, you probably had one of 3 songs as your profile song. Picture to Burn because you broke up with somebody, and let's be honest, if you had your choice between Picture to Burn and Should Have Said No, you were always going to choose Picture to Burn. 2, Tied Together with a Smile. You know. 3, Teardrops on My Guitar, because let's be real, you had a crush on a boy named Drew who never noticed you. Same. If you've been a Swiftie since debut, that means even now, sometimes you find yourself thinking, I am just a girl trying to find her place in this world. If you've been a Swiftie since debut, I'd lie. I heart ? Permanent marker. We're just gonna have to wait for the vault songs to find out now, won't we? If you're a since debut Swiftie, did your wife beat her wearing daddy with his new automatic ever show your boyfriend how sorry he'll be? Yeah, I didn't think so. If you're a since debut Swiftie, you'll know that whatever this version of Teardrops on My Guitar is on Spotify that we currently have is not the correct version of Teardrops on My Guitar that you know that's probably still on your mixed CD right now. Not that I still have it. If you're a since debut Swiftie, you took it as a personal attack that there are no debut songs on the Eras Tour set list, but you also low-key kinda get it. And if you're a since debut Swiftie, you definitely brag about that as much as you possibly can nowadays. And lastly, if you're a since debut Swiftie, you know that Fearless Taylor, Speak Now Taylor, Reputation Taylor, hell, not even the Tortured Poets Department Taylor or Yellow Dress Eras Tour surprise song wearing Taylor can hold a candle to the lawlessness of debut Taylor. And you anxiously wait for all her little new fans to find out what they missed. Welcome back to my new series, If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Moving on to her second album, Fearless. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless, this is either an album from your childhood, or it defined your entire teenage years because you've got a little bit of a mouth on you. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you know just how popular Love Story was. And the reason you aced your English unit on Romeo and Juliet is because this song came out at the same time. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, Valentine's Day meant something just a little bit different to you in 2008. And seeing Taylor Swift in a feature-length film for the first time was everything to you. Also, Taylor and Taylor. You know. And be honest, your FYP is still filled with Twilight videos, more specifically New Moon, because you were a hardcore Team Jacob. And if you're a since Fearless Swiftie, something deep inside you healed when they reunited for Speak Now Taylor's version. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you know just how popular You Belong With Me was, because that's the song that gotcha. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you'll know that the Junior Jewel shirt was kind of whatever back then, but the fact that Taylor Swift was brunette and had straight hair, you never recovered. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you'll know that this video is one of the first mega viral music videos on YouTube, sparking all sorts of parodies that would never fly nowadays in the music video parody era of YouTube, some of which you still have memorized to this day. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you'll know that the common topic of conversation was that Taylor Swift can't really sing, and you are laughing every single day now. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you still unironically call Taylor Swift T-Swizzle and still hope that Thug Story will be a surprise song one day. The day she brings out T-Pain at the Eras Tour, it's all over for everyone. If you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you also took it personally that Joe Jonas broke up with Taylor over the phone, because how could he break up with you that way? I mean, Taylor. And you absolutely lived for the day she blasted him on Ellen. And if you're a since Fearless Swiftie, la la la, ha ha ha. And if you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you remember the shockwave that was Taylor Swift and Kanye West at the VMAs. But nowadays, you laugh because anytime you see a comment that says Kanye West made Taylor Swift famous, you remember just how famous she already was when You Belong With Me won a VMA. Because you were reminded of how popular that song was every time you had a school dance, you had an assembly, your marching band performed, that slideshow that your teacher made. Yeah, he definitely made an already famous person really famous. Yeah, that makes total sense. And lastly, if you're a since Fearless Swiftie, you absolutely understand why Fearless Taylor's version was the first re-recording she dropped, because when you look back, yeah, that's the album she should have led with. Welcome back to my series called If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now, this is an album definitely from your childhood, or you were in your early 20s clinging to your childhood. I feel you. Don't let that go. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you will fight a baby if it even so much as looks like it could possibly not like the song Haunted. And still to this day, you are a keyboard warrior defending that song. Because how could you not like Haunted? It's literally her best song. I can't believe it's not on the Eras Tour set list. We know, the Speak Now girlies definitely have a mouth on them. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll remember all of the criticism mine originally got for being too similar to Love Story. Because a girl at the end of her teenage years and her early 20s should not be writing about fantasy love stories. She should be writing about sex stuff, because that's apparently all that women can write about. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll know this is exactly why 100,000 people scream F the patriarchy every time she has an Eras Tour show. And if you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll remember the article that sparked the song Mean. Every time she sings the lyric drunk and grumbling on about how I can't sing, you get a little extra pleasure out of it. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll remember when Enchanted went viral on TikTok, and so when the Eras Tour finally rolled around and it was the only Speak Now song on the set list, you low-key understood just how influential TikTok was for the Eras Tour set list. Looking at you, don't blame me. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you are still very bitter that Speak Now Taylor's version only got like a 20-day promo period. And in exactly the same way you defend Haunted, you will adamantly defend that Speak Now is her most underrated album. Because you were too young to remember just how many awards it won, and how many best country albums lists it's been included on. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you still have not recovered from Taylor and Taylor. Because you don't understand, they were endgame. She made a mistake and that's why she wrote Back to December. I know, you have a lot of feelings, but it's okay now. Nature is healing. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you definitely don't go by the name John anymore. Nope. Jonathan or John. Those are your options. Nope, just me? Okay. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll know that Sparks Fly was originally written when Taylor Swift was 16. And did you fall in love in an empty bar? No? Yeah, that's what I thought. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, you'll know that this woman, this era, is the woman who wrote All Too Well 10-minute version. You'll also remember at this time that she had been on pop radio so much, people were starting to wonder if she would ever do a pop song. We all know how that went. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie and you went to the Eras Tour and did not get Long Live, sorry. If you're a Sin Speak Now Swiftie, when this originally happened, it definitely, now as an adult, gives you the ick. And you are just waiting for the day she mashes up Dear John and Would've, Could've, Should've. Finally, if you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now, welcome back to my series, If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Moving on to her fourth album, Red. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you probably consider this album the Bible to your early 20s. And you would be correct. Or you were around the same age when this album first came out and it defines your early 20s. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, when you think millennial fashion of the early 2010s, you literally think this outfit. Or if you're a millennial Swiftie since Red, all of this is still in your closet. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you waited your whole life to finally turn 22 so that you could sing this song at midnight. Happy birthday. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you'll remember the 5 songs Taylor Swift debuted before the album came out, including I Knew You Were Trouble, and it made headlines for being dubstep. Taylor Swift goes dubstep? Is she leaving country music? If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you absolutely benefited from Taylor finally collaborating with Max Martin. But you also remember that because she was in her early 20s, people still didn't take her seriously. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you will absolutely remember early 2010s meme culture. An example includes, or this, but mostly, if you've been a Swiftie since Red, you'll remember Taylor Swift's Twitter era. And now, when you think cringy millennial tweets, you think some of these gems. Back when we just tweeted whatever came to our brain. You probably also remember her trying to explain what a hashtag was. Because believe it or not, there was a time before hashtags existed and nobody understood how to use them. I'm definitely not old enough to remember that. Nope. Anyway, if you've been a Swiftie since Red, you remember the original interview where she fleetingly mentioned that All Too Well was originally a 10-minute song and you never let it go. And we thank you every single day for that. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, you'll remember when she debuted the 1989 haircut on the Red Tour. And the world was literally never the same. Because it was too busy still trying to comprehend with the fact that Taylor Swift straightened her hair. Also the Mayan apocalypse. If you've been a Swiftie since Red, massive baking day. And if you've been a Swiftie since Red, Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since, and this one's for the 1989 Swifties. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you'll remember the first time she sent 8 seconds of static to #1 on iTunes. Canadian Swifties really said, "We got you, queen." If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you will remember the interview with Barbara Walters where she officially dubbed Taylor Swift the music industry. And you will spam that title in any comment section you can. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, that means you must love pop music. And either Blank Space or Shake It Off got you. Don't lie, it was one of them. And probably up until that point, you were just kind of whatever about Taylor Swift. If it wasn't the repetition of Shake It Off, it was definitely Starbucks Lovers. This is a meme you cannot let go of, and actually someone out there still thinks that this is the correct lyric, despite Taylor Swift confirming on Valentine's Day that it is not. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you will remember how groundbreaking it was that Taylor officially left country music. But if you've been a Swiftie since before 1989, you listened to Red. You heard Sweeter Than Fiction. You knew it was coming. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, that means you were on Tumblr and you remember Taylor Swift's Tumblr era. And how wild it was that she rounded up her fans, brought them to all of her houses to listen to the album for the very first time a month before its release, and you're still mad that she didn't choose you. We've only been here since debut, Taylor. It's fine. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you remember all the discourse about how she was a serial dater. When she dropped Blank Space, you knew right away what she was doing. Speaking of Blank Space, you'll also remember the Twitter campaign to get Taylor Swift's Shake It Off and Blank Space to 1 billion views on YouTube, making her one of the very few artists who could actually do so. Operation Blank Space to 1 billion, anyone? Well, we did it. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, we know you are a Haylor stan. And when this ended, you died dead, R.I.P. me. But don't worry, just like the Speak Now girlies, nature is healing. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you'll remember that that album was literally everywhere. And you were so excited when Taylor Swift became the first female artist to win Album of the Year twice in a row at the Grammys, and made that very important speech for young women in the industry about people taking credit for your fame. We'll leave that at that today. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, the rock version of Out of the Woods and We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together is exactly why still to this day you are campaigning for a rock album from Taylor Swift. And one of these days we are gonna get it. The Girl Squad. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you'll remember when Taylor Swift famously pulled all of her music from Spotify and said that music should not be free, as she protested for higher royalty payouts for artists and songwriters. And then won. Love her or hate her, at least our royalty payouts are bigger because of her. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you'll remember hearing that lyric in Welcome to New York about boys and boys and girls, and speculating for the first time if that was her actually supporting marriage equality before it passed here in the US. And then you cried when 1989 Taylor's version came out and she confirmed it. It was a complicated time, but we're here now and that's all that matters. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989, you'll remember when things got dark. When suddenly it became more popular to hate Taylor Swift than it did to like her. But we'll come back to that for the Reputation Swifties. But if you've been a Swiftie since 1989, red blood, white snow, blue dress, on a boat, your new girl is my clone. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. You've been a Swiftie since Reputation. Where the hell were you beforehand? Whoa. The resentment just flew out of my body. Did you see that? I'm so sorry. I have a lot of issues. I need to work through that. Let me roll that back and try again. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember that 2016 was not a great year to be on the internet. Seriously, a lot of celebrities died, and in the US there was a lot of political unrest, and it was just not a great year. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll definitely remember Bleachella, and that now famous Vogue interview where she said karma is real, and no matter what happens, you will always be a karma truther. But karma is real, okay? She wrote it on the manual twice. She has a song called Karma, it's real. We know, bestie, and orange will always be karma's color. You've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember a very, very dark day in internet history. Starting with a certain tweet and Snapchat video that I'm not gonna mention by name so that I don't accidentally go to the wrong side of TikTok again. Started with a tweet and ended with a year of silence. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, and especially if you've been a Swiftie since before Reputation, you will remember staring at your phone and your computer being like, what the hell is happening, as snakes flooded all of social media and traditional media across the world. And you'll definitely remember Taylor very much wanting to be excluded from this narrative, and instead of helping her career at the time, it only made things worse. They're burning all the witches even if you aren't one, am I right? If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember when Taylor Swift deleted everything on her Instagram and we got a year of silence, only to be broken up by one single tweet offering her thoughts and prayers to the victims of the Manchester attack, to which nearly all of the replies were still with snake emojis and people telling her to go away. Wow, wasn't the time before Reputation just so fun? If If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember that fateful day in 2017 where the snake first appeared on her Instagram. And we got the official announcement of Reputation. And if you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember the day she dropped Look What You Made Me Do. And that made some people really angry. In fact, it made a lot of people angry. So many people angry. And you cannot believe that still to this day, people can't seem to understand that that song is satire. Like, how did you not get it? Looking at you, BuzzFeed, very specifically, if you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, get out of my house! If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember when she dropped Endgame and thinking, what changed? Why are we excited for her now? If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember the absolute chokehold that Delicate and Ready For It had on grocery stores. Current Spotify numbers do not compare to the amount of times grocery store workers had to listen to those songs. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember celebrating when her album sold 1.2 million copies in its first week, which was incredibly surprising given what had just happened and the fact that streaming was starting to take over in the world. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember that her ticket sales were not so great for the Reputation Stadium tour. At least, not in the traditional sense because of her slow ticketing method. People were still predicting that this was the end of Taylor Swift's career. That's funny. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, now all he thinks about is me. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember the numerous guests she had on the Reputation Stadium tour. This is just a handful of faces. There are literally so many people she brought on tour. You lived for every single performance. I mean, just so many guests. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember when she left Big Machine Records and talked about wanting to own her music. I wonder if that ever came true. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you will remember the Reputation secret sessions, which you also weren't picked for. Damn it. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you'll remember Taylor talking about how there are so many Easter eggs in the Look What You Made Me Do music video that fans will probably never figure them all out. That's probably for the best because who likes looking for Easter eggs? I mean, it's not like that'll turn into a whole thing. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation and you're Gen Z, we know Getaway Car and Don't Blame Me are your favorite songs from this album. You've made that very clear over the years. If you've been a Swiftie since Reputation and you're a millennial, yeah, this is how your late 20s feel. And if you've been a Swiftie since Reputation, you live by there will be no explanation, there will just be Reputation, forgetting that she said this in the Lover era, not the Reputation era. And every time you see a video, tweet, post, does not matter, if it could potentially, maybe, perhaps, point to Reputation Taylor's version being released, you are convinced it will happen tonight, tomorrow, yesterday, or 6 months from now. No, because like, are we forgetting there will be no explanation? There will just be Reputation? Okay, she wore black that one time at that one event, so we're getting Reputation Taylor's version tomorrow. I'm convinced. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie Since lover, this picture gives you clown flashbacks. As we started to filter through those Easter eggs and knew we were counting down to something, only to find out that she was just trying to figure out a way how to transition out of Reputation and into the color scheme of Lover. But I mean, like, we were sort of right. We just, didn't pick up on it the right way. It was all right there. If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, you'll remember that this era is when the Easter egg game really took off, ultimately leading us to the butterfly wall in New York. This is when Swifties became FBI agents. It's a good thing, though, that this didn't turn into anything. Otherwise, we'd have to probably do something crazy like solve 33 million puzzles for song titles on Google. If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, je suis calme! And you also use this reaction meme anytime she does literally anything. If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, you'll remember Kelly Clarkson tweeting out her suggestion that maybe Taylor Swift should just re-record her own music. So that way she can own her master recordings and give fans an incentive to not stream the old ones. And then Taylor confirmed on Good Morning America that she absolutely was going to. Just because something's cliche doesn't mean that it's not awesome. If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, that means you have a nice patch on your heart because Katy Perry and Taylor Swift became friends again and all was right with the world. Except it wasn't because of the political climate in the US. And if you've been a Swiftie since Lover, you'll remember Taylor Swift advocating for the Equality Act, which led to a massive spike in $13 donations to GLAAD, and Taylor calling out directly that person in the Oval Office at the time. Taylor really said this time around, you know what? Last year I almost lost everything, so what do I have to lose now? If you've been a Swiftie since Lover, you'll remember that the Lover house was just a house in the Lover music video until fans put this together. No, it was always supposed to represent all of her albums. No, bestie. This was not confirmed until the Eras tour. Wait, what? You've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you will remember speculating over the man wall, which we continue to do every single day of our lives to this day, because until this re-recording project is done, we are always going to come back to this wall. If you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you'll remember that everyone wanted Cruel Summer to be a single, and we finally got it, which means Lover got a #1 finally after all these years. Cruel Summer is that song, it has always been that song, and it will always be that song. If you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you will remember the Miss Americana documentary. I'm sorry, was I too loud? In my own house that I bought with the songs that I wrote about my own life. This is probably one of the last opportunities I have to grasp on to this kind of success. Yeah, it's really too bad that Taylor hit her peak at 30 and nothing ever happened afterward. If you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you'll remember this lying liar who lies when she said not a lot going on at the moment. If you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, big isolation. And if you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you'll remember the Lover Secret Sessions, which you were not chosen for. Again. No, it's fine. It's been like 5 years. I'm over it. I promise. I don't hold a grudge. And finally, if you've been a Swiftie Since Lover, you'll remember Loverfest. Or maybe you don't. I'm sorry. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Today we're moving on to folklore, and I'm gonna try really hard to make this not a triggering 2020 traumatic flashback. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you remember just going about your day trying to survive the hellhole that was 2020 before Taylor just decided to post randomly, hey, surprise, season 8 comes out tonight, and then basically said, oh, by the way, it's not a pop album and it's not personal, good luck. And then her grid aligned on Instagram and you have been scarred ever since. And this album and another album are exactly why still to this day you believe that Taylor Swift could drop an album at literally any second. Because she could, and she can't. See how that works? Anyway, if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you will remember the George Floyd protests here in the US, and Taylor announcing that all of her employees will now be getting Juneteenth off as it becomes a national holiday. Because it should be, and more employers should follow suit. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, that means you're probably a fan of really advanced songwriting, as opposed to that cheap pop trash. No, but like every time I watch the Me music video, I'm like, this lady wrote Mirror Ball. We know, folklore is your whole personality and you swear by it every single day. No, you don't understand, it's her best songwriting, it's her best album. In this essay, if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, that means you were probably on TikTok in 2020, which means you can probably remember a few certain trends when this album came out, such as, I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. Or all those funny memes about most relatable Taylor Swift lyrics, including, I hit my peak at 7. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you definitely remember the Long Pond studio sessions. And now anytime she releases an album, you're like, Long Pond sessions when? We're never getting Evermore Long Pond sessions. It's time to let it go. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you remember always thinking that the lakes deserve to have a more cinematic version to it. And then we finally got the original version, which is much more cinematic. And if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you'll remember that streaming had officially taken over the music industry, which meant we got a whole bunch of like chapters and remixes and stuff. The rules for charting were changing very quickly at that time. And when I say remixes, you know which album we're doing next. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you'll remember people saying that, I guess she's done with pop, she's moved on. Which makes sense because as we know now, she never went back to pop music after folklore. Oh wait, if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you remember dissecting all of her lyrics to try and find the historical references, the teenage love triangle, and trying to figure out how it all went together. Because Blondie dropped an album, let us fend for ourselves, and said, good luck with your life, I'm not giving you any interviews. Until we got the Long Pond sessions, which is again why you campaign for them every single day of your life. If you've been a Swiftie since folklore, you'll remember her winning her historic 3rd Grammy for Album of the Year. Eras Tour costume, anyone? And if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, this cardigan either gives you major trauma flashbacks or it is your biggest flex in life. This one piece of clothing truly separates the haves and the have-nots. And if that's not your biggest flex, then having a signed folklore CD most certainly is. Or you're like me and the rest of us, who have neither. Please tell me how it feels to win at life. And if you've been a Swiftie since folklore, if you know, you know. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, this single tweet is why you have trust issues to this day. And why you're still convinced that every time she drops an album, she's not just dropping one, she's definitely doing a double album. Or a triple one. Woodvale is real, I swear. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you remember us all collectively losing our minds over the simple lyric, I come back stronger than a 90s trend. Because wow, what a play on so many things. That lyric in 2020, Chef's kiss. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you'll remember Taylor Swift talking about how she just couldn't stop writing, and this was the first time that she would have a sister record to a previous album. And you remember everyone not believing her and dissecting every single song on this album on TikTok to figure out if it was actually meant for Evermore or if it was originally for folklore. Because when you look at the fact, if you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you'll remember the Dancing Witch version or Elvira remix of Willow, and then we got another version of Willow. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. So many remixes of Willow. And if you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you'll remember the original witch meme because of all of those remixes that led to conspiracy theorists absolutely losing their minds thinking she was actually promoting witchcraft and summoning demons both in this song and now at the Eras Tour. And that is why every time this song comes on at the Eras Tour, we all scream, "Summon the witches!" Know your meme. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you'll remember Taylor Swift going on Good Morning America to announce this album and being like, oh my god, she's actually serious. And if you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you still prefer Evermore to Folklore because you either love her songwriting on this album a little bit more or you're actually the younger sibling. If you've been a Swiftie since Folklore, which vinyl did you end up with? Because a lot of these we've yet to see be restocked. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, I'm sorry. No, we're probably not gonna get Evermore Long Pond Sessions still. I'm sorry. One day, maybe. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you'll remember everyone thinking she hated this album until she called literally everyone out for it at the Eras Tour. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, one of your favorite parts of the Eras Tour is Marjorie. She literally sings with the ghost of her grandmother on stage. Like, that is so cool. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you're fairly certain that Champagne Problems was a single, right? No, it was definitely a single. No, I swear. Wait. It was just a fan favorite? No, it was a single. It was a single. No, it was never a single. If you've been a Swiftie since Evermore, you ask every single time there's an Eras Tour show if she performed No Body, No Crime. The answer to that is also no. No, she did not perform it. But she did for the first time at my show. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Continuing on in release order, we now have Fearless Taylor's version. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember finding out what the hell a Taylor's version even was, and the entire fandom losing their absolute minds that she was not going to be re-releasing them in order. What do you mean she's doing Fearless first? I thought she was gonna do Debut. I'm sorry, were you around during the original Fearless run? No, this absolutely checks out. But considering you probably weren't around during the original run, if you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you became a Swiftie because of nostalgia. Either that or you basically thought, wow, she's actually doing it. Good for her, I'll check this out. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you remember hearing Love Story Taylor's version for the very first time and wanting to cry because it was so beautiful. And if you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, Fearless, my version. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember the original vault puzzle. She really said, oh, you think you can decode a message? Well, how about you try something level expert, because I'm definitely not gonna make this even more complicated and convoluted in the future. And then after that, the whole fandom was like, wow, she is brilliant. She is a mastermind. I wonder if that nickname will turn into anything important. Probably not. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, this picture haunts all of your dreams. To this day, how you respond to this picture divides you into the fandom into one of four categories. 1, the theorists. What does the bear mean? 2, the realists. She just does this for the money. 3, the people who don't pay attention to her Instagram and just think she makes great music and that's it. Or 4, the people who actually get her humor and regularly listen to songs like me. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember hearing the very first Vault song, You All Over Me, featuring Maren Morris. And from that moment on, you decided that every single Taylor's version album was definitely gonna have features. Yeah, how'd that go with 1989 Taylor's version? It was also on this day when the fandom collectively asked Taylor, when are you ever giving us a proper female duet? If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember this interview with Zane Lowe, where she talked about recording Evermore and Fearless Taylor's version at the same time. And thinking, wow, she records music really fast. I wonder when we'll get the next album. Probably not for a while, and definitely not within the same year. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember Mr. Perfectly Fine. Or as you probably know it, the Vault song that gotcha. You'll also remember the world healing when she reposted Sophie Turner on her Instagram, because let's be real, it's not a bop. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember when she decided not to submit Fearless Taylor's version to the Grammys so that they could focus on Evermore. And then you became really confused as the fandom you just joined started to think that she hated Evermore in the months that followed because she forgot its anniversary or something. That really must have been very confusing for you. I'm so sorry for that. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, you'll remember Conan Gray and Olivia Rodrigo dancing to You Belong With Me Taylor's version on TikTok and getting so hyped that her re-recording project was finally starting. If you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, where is Meredith? And if you've been a Swiftie since Fearless Taylor's version, that's suspicious. That's weird. This is a new filter. A month later? Well, we know Taylor, so it's a good thing she's gonna be quiet for a while. It's probably nothing. I mean, it's not like she's gonna announce another album, thus sending the entire fandom into a constant state of chaos that we have yet to recover from. Guess we'll find out. Welcome back to my series, If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Continuing on in release order, we have finally arrived at Red Taylor's version. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll know that the entire fandom has never been the same since. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, oh my god, she's really not putting the titles and text on her album covers anymore. It's a pattern, it's a trend, it's definitely gonna stick around. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember her announcing Red Taylor's version on June 18th. And still to this day, we just cannot figure out why she did that. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, hey, one of them is even 10 minutes long. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you will remember the Red Vault puzzle, which was level casually cruel in the name of being honest. You'll also remember how fast we unscrambled those songs. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember 2021 was the year every celebrity and their best friend joined TikTok, including Taylor Swift herself, which caused a lot of mayhem. I wonder why she did that. There's gotta be a reason. Anyway, if you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, how many songs? Who can even read that? If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember this TikTok and being like, wow, I really love the textured wallpaper behind her. And her outfit, I wonder if it means anything. Probably not. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, I can't talk right now, I'm doing hot squirrel shit. Her words, not mine. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember All Too Well 10-minute version going viral across the internet, breaking the internet, and going #1 on the Billboard charts, becoming the longest #1 hit ever. Don't even lie, I know you remember that because that is the song that made you actually check out the album. And that is why you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, 3 sad virgins, what? 3 sad virgins, whoa. 3 sad virgins, what? And they gonna die alone. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, this performance on SNL of All Too Well 10-minute version lives in your head rent-free and you have not stopped thinking about it ever since. Because that girl meant every single word that night. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, I haven't thought about their experience, to be honest. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember Dionne Warwick on Twitter firmly saying that if that young man has Taylor's scarf, he should return it, and I'll pay the postage. And she's right, he should. Actually, the scarf is a metaphor. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember the All Too Well short film, starring Dylan O'Brien and Sadie Sink, and Taylor Swift, and watching an entire fandom quadruple in size, because this girl does short films, and 10-minute songs, and she writes really well. Who is this girl? And if you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember the All Too Well premiere because you heard about it online and you weren't invited. You'll also remember all the TikToks from people who were in the audience, collectively remembering the brand new lyrics from just a few hours after it being released, and absolutely forgetting that they existed. You told me about your past, thinking your future was me, and I know it's long. Wait, that's not the words anymore. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, why does Girl at Home sound like a pop song now? What did she do? No, that's a country song. Why did she change it to a pop song? Oh, because that's how it was supposed to be. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. You remember the discourse. And speaking of online discourse, if you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, was it F the patriarchy as an exclamation that she can drive? Or was the F the patriarchy on a keychain? Where was it? Taylor, punctuation matters. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember the I Bet You Think About Me music video. Hey, that dress and cake looks familiar. Oh, she's good. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you saw this cake and thought, all right, 1989 Taylor's version is next. We're getting 1989 Taylor's version. And then we got a song from 1989 Taylor's version with This Love, because This Love went viral on TikTok. Oh my god, that makes so much sense. If we make a song go viral, she can just release it and we will stream her version. I wonder if that will work for songs like Enchanted. I mean, obviously we're getting 1989 Taylor's version next. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember her getting the Global Icon Award. You have the right to prove them wrong. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, wow, she really likes her shimmery outfits lately. If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, that means you were probably the class of 2022. What merch did you get? If you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember all the discourse about the scarf. And during our 2 weeks of promo for this record, we promptly ended everything with, I bet you think about me. And if you've been a Swiftie since Red Taylor's version, you'll remember Taylor Swift winning a VMA for the All Too Well short film. Wait, did she just say meet me at midnight for a new album? No way. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, that means you've probably been somewhat aware of what she's been doing during the re-recording project, but you didn't really dive in until this record came out. And you constantly ask yourself, have I been a Swiftie since Midnights, or was it one of the re-recorded albums? Have I been a Swiftie all along? Where do I belong? To that I would say, if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember Taylor Swift announcing Midnights at the VMAs, but wondering what the album title was gonna be, and then flocking her merch shop and anxiously waiting as a clock ticked all the way down to midnight, and we have never been the same since. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember not hearing anything from the record until it was released in October, and then rumors began to fly that this was gonna be a rock album. She's moved on from pop music. Look at Folklore and Evermore. This is not a pop album. Oh, a pop star went back to pop music. Weird. And if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember Midnight's Mayhem with Me. And this is when you started posting Taylor Swift content and theories, didn't you? If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, karma. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember Taylor Swift getting an honorary doctorate from NYU because you either watched a live stream of it or you were in the audience listening to her talk to you. Breathe in, breathe through, breathe deep, breathe out. And I'm a doctor now, so I know how breathing works. Draw the cat eye sharp enough to kill a man is so painfully millennial. It's so cringy. Taylor, your age is showing. Learn to live alongside cringe. You can't avoid it, so don't try to. The scary news is, you're on your own now. The cool news is, you're on your own now. Guys, I think it was just a speech. Let's not get Delulu here, okay? She's not gonna use a doctorate speech as an Easter egg. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember Taylor dropping a special teaser for all of the visuals for the album. And then rumors flew that it was a visual album. But luckily we knew that was coming thanks to her very interesting schedule. And then we got the first music video the next morning. Wait, special very chaotic surprise? What's that? If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember a different version of Antihero that originally aired that is no longer available. We don't need to go into why. What's done is done. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember Antihero becoming her longest #1 hit of her career. And then you watch Midnights proceed to break record after record after record after record after. Furthermore, if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember her occupying the entire top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100, which had never been done before. And if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, it's a clock. 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 If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, hey, would you like a version of Midnights? How about this cover of Midnights? You want another cover of Midnights? How about a third cover of Midnights? How about a fourth cover of Midnights? Hey, I heard you like Midnights. Do you want the Target edition of Midnights? It has a few exclusive songs, including the fan favorite Hits Different, which you definitely will not be able to get anytime in the future or something. Hey, how about the 3 a.m. edition of Midnights? Surprise, it's a concept album. How about another version of Midnights? This one's Till the Dawn edition. On another version of Midnights, we're getting a vault song on this one. Taylor, you'll be fine. Hey, you want some remixes of Antihero? I bet you want another remix of Antihero. What about an acoustic version of Antihero? Would you like a remix of Lavender Haze? What about some more remixes of Lavender Haze? How about an acoustic version of Lavender Haze? It's a clock. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember the Bejeweled music video and how there are so many Easter eggs in this music video she had to keep a PDF of all of them. And you know what? We're still decoding it to this day. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, hey, where is the music video for Lavender Haze? It's been like 3 months. And if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you still think that Bejeweled was a single from Midnights. I mean, it got a music video, but no, it was never a single. It was just for the fans. I bet you still think Champagne Problems was a single too. Wait till you find out. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, wait, is this desk for the Tortured Poets department? If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember the Karma Cup in the music video. So if we look at the coffee cup in the music video for Karma, if you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you remember thinking that we were definitely getting 1989 Taylor's version next. No, we're getting Speak Now Taylor's version. She made it number 13 on the elevator buttons. I think there's been a glitch. No, we're getting 1989 Taylor's version. No, she has the Enchanted Castle. We're getting Speak Now Taylor's version next. Okay, while everyone's confused, I want to talk about why Exile ends too. What does that mean? Who cares what it means? Look at the koi. That's like the koi guitar from Speak Now. Okay, we're getting Speak Now Taylor's version next. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember getting a vault song for Midnights. And her dropping a vault song for Midnights is why you ask every single time she drops an album, okay, but what are the vault songs? What are the bonus tracks? What are the Taylor's versions? What does any of this mean? If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, hey, all of these songs kind of seem like they remind me of some of her older songs. Mark this out on my collarbone, the rust that grew between telephones, the lips I used to call home, so scarlet it was maroon. Wait, like red? I remember good girl, sad boy. Wait, whoa, did she just interpolate Out of the Woods? And a damn sure never wanna dance with the devil. At 19. Wait, like Dear John? You've been a Swiftie since Midnights, you'll remember getting the more Lana Del Rey version of Snow on the Beach. Because where was she on that track? I think I heard her in the background, but it's really anyone's guess. If you've been a Swiftie since Midnights, I'm enchanted to announce my next tour, Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. Well, that shouldn't be too hard to get tickets to. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. Finally, it is time for her 13th album and third re-recorded album, Speak Now Taylor's version. And if you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, rather than me just like speaking about it, if you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you will remember the absolute pandemonium when she announced the album on night one of her Nashville shows for the Eras Tour, because after like 7 or 8 months of nonstop teasers for this album, yeah, we went a little crazy. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you will remember the entire fandom waiting with bated breath to hear her sing Dear John in her mature voice, because we all know what happened with All Too Well 10-minute version. And you got swept up in comment after comment and video after video being like, Dear John, oh, it's on site when this song comes out. To which she promptly said, hey, chill. I'm not putting this album out so you can go on the internet and defend me against somebody you think I wrote a song about 14 million years ago. Yes, Mother. We're very sorry, Mother. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you will remember Taylor, and Taylor recreating the Spider-Man meme. Because, like, there's something, they share something. I just don't know what it is. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you will remember Taylor Swift watching the premiere of the I Can See You music video with the audience at the Eras Tour, and then bringing the cast of the music video up on stage. Hey, did you know that Taylor Lautner could do a backflip? If not, now you do. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, Back to December is actually the first time I've ever apologized to somebody in song. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you will remember this little sign about 1989 TV at the end of the I Can See You music video, and thinking, all right, there it is. She's in a getaway car, we're getting Reputation Taylor's version next. If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, Fall Out Boy and Hayley Williams? What? If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, okay, so she's got a blue fingernail. That could be 1989 Taylor's version, or maybe it's Midnight's. She's barely holding this vinyl. Does she hate this record or something? Is she in the cart for the Eras Tour? Where is she? You've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, 20 days. That's it. And finally, if you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you're kind of new, huh? Nostalgia. That'll do it. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, is that a new Speak Now dress? That's blue. Oh my god, she wore a blue folklore dress. Is she doing the same thing she did with Speak Now? If you've been a Swiftie since Speak Now Taylor's version, you have no idea how long I've been planning this. Wildest Dreams Taylor's version, released 2021. This Love Taylor's version, released 2022. No, you know what, Taylor? I think we have a really good idea as to how long you plan things. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, wow, she has 4 different dresses for the surprise song set. I wonder if that means anything. Hey, she has 4 different colors for the 1989 Taylor's version vinyls. Oh my god, it was right in front of us the whole time. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you will remember the most chaotic thing she has literally ever done in the form of the 1989 Taylor's version vault puzzle. No, guys, I swear, when you start Googling 1989 Taylor's version, this vault thing will show up. No, it doesn't. It's not working for me. No, she wouldn't work with Google. Usually she announces these type of things. Look at the Red Taylor's version vault and the Fearless Taylor's version vault. And then fast forward 300 coffees later or something, you were doing 33 million different puzzles on Google all night long just to figure out 4 song titles. Is It Over Now? Now That We Don't Talk? Say Don't Go? Suburban Legends. Ooh, that sounds really cool. Wait, what's the last vault song called? S-L-U-T. Lust? Guys, let's calm down, okay? It's definitely lust, okay? She's not gonna take that other word that's constantly thrown at her and then flip it and somehow turn it into a song. She's never done that before. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, I was born in 1989, reinvented for the first time in 2014, and a part of me was reclaimed in 2023. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you'll remember thinking, I thought Kendrick Lamar was seen leaving the studio. Did they not do the remix to Bad Blood? Oh, there it is. Wait, on the deluxe version of 1989 Taylor's version? Oh, it's just that song. I mean, well, that's cool. You've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version. Hey, do you want some merch? I didn't. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, hey, do you want some merch? Wait, what was that? Oh my God, what is that? If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, oh, you wanted Sweeter Than Fiction Taylor's version? Go get it at Target, because you're not getting it on streaming. Good luck with your life. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you'll remember the photo that gave us world peace. But wait a minute. Black? Blue? I swear I've seen that somewhere before. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, Now That We Don't Talk is like the shortest song I've ever written. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you'll remember that some people were not so happy with this album. You don't understand, she ruined style and New Romantics, okay? I can never forgive her for that. Okay, you laugh, but they really are terrible remakes. I actually really like Style and New Romantics Taylor's version. Oh, you're wrong. Okay, sorry, we get it. You think the album flopped. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you'll remember the album selling 1.5 million copies in its first week, and collecting over 1 billion streams in 3 days. And it outsold the original. Yep, definitely sounds like a flop to me. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, you'll remember Is It Over Now replacing her own Cruel Summer at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making her the first female artist to do that twice. And then you waited, and waited, and waited. And we never got that music video. If you've been a Swiftie since 1989 Taylor's version, oh, I guess we're moving on to Reputation Taylor's version next. Get the microphone away from her. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. And this is for any Swiftie out there who became a fan during the Eras Tour. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember the Ticketmaster fiasco that was so bad it now has its own Wikipedia page. It was so bad that people sued Ticketmaster and took them to court. Taylor Nation, do something. Does that ring a bell? And if you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you will remember Taylor Swift's apology about the Ticketmaster fiasco and how she ended it by promising to provide more opportunities to bring the show to as many people as possible. But between viral moments, news articles, a film, a different version of the film, another version of the film, all the live streams, and more, it's too bad she couldn't keep that promise. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, well, hi! If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember that more people attended the very first night of the show in Glendale, Arizona than when it hosted the Super Bowl. Baby, let the games begin. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, excuse me, this is unacceptable. There are 73,000 people here. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember that the United States Federal Reserve came out and credited Taylor Swift very specifically for helping to single-handedly prevent a worse recession following the pandemic, because she boosted the US economy by literally billions of dollars. But if you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll know that she didn't just do that in the US. She helped boost the economies in Australia, Japan, Singapore, Brazil, Argentina, literally everywhere she has gone. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember the Seattle shows generating enough seismic activity that it registered as a 2.3 magnitude earthquake. Yeah, I was at one of those shows, and we do the stomping thing when we really like an artist, so you're welcome. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember that Taylor Swift has donated to local food banks at every single stop she's gone to. And at nearly every stop, her fans and other people have followed suit. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember that we hate the yellow dress. Why is my face on Google? And if you still don't understand why we hate the yellow dress, I encourage you to go watch this video. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, boys only want love if it's torture. Sydney, wallow it. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember this Reputation outfit and being distraught that it's actually a fan edit and not real. Listen, bestie, if she ever comes out in something different besides that red jumpsuit, I will make a video so fast I will not care if there are captions, I won't put emojis, I won't do any of those things. You can just look at the picture and you'll know what I'm talking about. We will know within nanoseconds. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, oh my god, I swallowed a bug. Is there a chance that none of you saw that? It's fine. She's fine. She wasn't doing anything. Hey, stop. Hey, stop! You've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you will remember Project Marjorie, where the Nashville show started the tradition of lighting our phones up during Marjorie as a way of paying tribute to her late grandmother on the song. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour and remember the Nashville shows, you'll remember that they also got the first Rain show. And something else that they definitely deserved. They definitely deserved that. It's an important, Nashville is where she got her start, so Nashville, number one, you know what? I got no body, no crime. I can't complain. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember Taylor Swift also announcing 1989 Taylor's version in LA, where oddly enough, there were also all these notices around the stadium about something being filmed and there would be cameras, but I don't know what that was for. And if you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, guys, no, I'm serious. We're getting a double album. 1989 Taylor's version is gonna be a double album. Just wait. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you've probably watched a majority of the shows on a grainy live stream in which you've seen Taylor Swift break the fourth wall several times and being like, you need to hear this too. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember the Eras Tour film, which we all knew was coming but didn't know exactly when because wow, she's announcing that a month after she filmed it. Okay, shout out to the editors, they deserve a raise. The budget for the film was like 10 or 20 million and she only made 261.7 million at the box office, which once again helped save an industry and boosted the economy. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, all of this so far is probably where you sort of joined in somewhere. We're not even done. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember No Body, No Crime being performed for the first time, as well as Nothing New with Phoebe Bridgers, Cowboy Like Me with Marcus Mumford, Would've Could've Should've, and The Great War with Aaron Dessner. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you will remember that The Great War no longer refers to the song. It refers to the Ticketmaster fiasco and trying to get tickets to the Eras Tour. Shout out to all our fallen soldiers who never got tickets. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, more specifically March 2023, did you enjoy Invisible String? Because she really said, I'm cutting that song and I don't ever want to sing it again. We did get a fun note change in the one. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, more specifically the first part of the Eras Tour, I was enchanted to meet you. Okay, that's it for Speak Now, bye. Don't worry guys, we're not singing anything from my self-titled album. Cause who likes that record? If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember being viscerally upset or incredibly happy that she finally added Long Live to the set list. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, okay guys, here's my theory as to why I think she's going to add the Tortured Poets department to the Eras Tour set list. Okay, first of all, she's changed the set list several times. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember her launching Swift Talk. And that hashtag is specifically responsible for bringing you into the fan base. You're welcome. Karma is the guy on the Chiefs. Sapphire tears on MySpace, sadness became. You plan to plan, you plan to fail. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you routinely watch compilations of the Errors Tour. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you remember over an 8-minute standing ovation in LA. And one of these days, one of you is gonna beat LA, but who will it be? If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember when Taylor Swift's net worth crossed the $1 billion mark. Not necessarily putting $1 billion in her account, but you're in on the meme. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember that the Eras Tour has made such a cultural impact, it also has its own Wikipedia page. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember Michael creating the Bejeweled dance and it finding its way to the Eras Tour. And then he got the 22 hat at his show because honestly, deserved. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember in 2023 that 1 out of every 78 on-demand streams was a Taylor Swift song, meaning that if she was her own genre of music, she would have been the 9th most popular in 2023. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, this is Evermore, which is an album that I love, despite what some of you say on TikTok. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you'll remember when Cruel Summer finally was released as a single and hit #1 in October, right around the time of the release of 1989 Taylor's version and the Eras Tour film. And yes, We have gone through many seasons now, and people are still streaming Cruel Summer as they should. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, that means you are specifically a part of Swift Mania. And you've seen the massive surge her discography has had, her outselling the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Janet Jackson, literally almost all of her contemporaries. She consistently has her name somewhere in the top 10 of nearly every music chart she's eligible for. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, you remember Taylor Swift singing 15 to Abigail when she was in the audience, and then proceeding to bawl your entire eyes out. If you've been a Swiftie since the Eras Tour, wow, you have had to catch up on a lot, but we're glad you're here now. Welcome back to my series I'm calling If You've Been a Swiftie Since. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you will remember the Grammys 2024 when Taylor was definitely going to announce Reputation Taylor's version. I mean, look, she's wearing black and white and everything's black and white. She's got a clock. Her merch shop has gone completely white. Wait, white is not Reputation's color. Well, this can't mean anything. Oh, well, I guess it does. Huh, her merch shop went down before launching a new product. She's never gonna do that again. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, 2. Sometimes a peace sign is just a peace sign. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember the very first deluxe edition CD being launched just before she returned on the Eras Tour. Wow, that's so exciting. I wonder how many there's gonna be. There's only one bonus track, right? If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you will remember Taylor Swift announcing Taylor Swift the Eras Tour Taylor's version coming to Disney Plus with 4 additional acoustic songs. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll also remember the Super Bowl. Aw, that's so cute. American football, Taylor's version. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember Taylor Swift returning to the Eras Tour in Tokyo and saying that she was actually going to announce the Torture Poets department in Tokyo. But when she won Album of the Year for the 4th time, she decided to do it at the Grammys instead. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember her show in Melbourne when her store went down again. She already announced a new album. What else could she be announcing? Oh, it's the Bolter variant of the Torture Poets department. There's more music. This variant has an exclusive track. Whoa, that's so exciting. And it's only available until 2 p.m. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember that her first show in Sydney was delayed by over an hour, completely cutting Sabrina's opening act. So she brought her out for a special duet of White Horse and Coney Island. And then was like, guess what? There's another variant of the Torture Poets department, this time with the albatross. And the internet collectively was like, what the hell is an albatross? And hey, this countdown ends at 2 p.m. too. I know. Sometimes a countdown is just a countdown. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember night 2 of the Singapore shows when she announced the Black Dog variant of the Torture Poets department. You know, after her site went down and turned black. So no Rep TV? And oh, hey, look, this countdown ends at 2 p.m. too. Well, that sure is a lot of 2s, but it can't mean anything, right? 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 If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember Taylor Swift going, ha, psych, the Eras Tour is actually available early. You can stream it now. And you'll also remember people watching the movie on live streams and Disney Plus and Taylor Nation appearing in people's live streams saying, oh, hi to everyone. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember World Poetry Day on Spotify, which led to the membership cards that you could share on social media. That's it. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you will remember the 5 Stages of Heartbreak Apple Music playlists, and you'll remember combing through the lyrics of every single song on every single playlist just to find out a lyric from the Torture Poets department. We're on to you, Blondie. You're not going to be able to keep anything secret on this album. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember the dispute between TikTok and UMG, where music from your favorite artist was completely removed from the platform, only for it to return just in the nick of time for the Torture Poets department. Hey, who's that guy? Where's his hat? If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember signed CDs. Another variant of the Torture Poets department. Sold out in minutes. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember the ghosted white vinyl. Another variant of the Torture Poets department. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember the Spotify pop-up event in LA, filled with all sorts of Easter eggs for the album. You'll also remember the YouTube Shorts puzzle that spelled out FORTH, and the other QR codes that started to appear around the globe, seemingly spelling out Fortnite. Oh my god, her merch shop went down. This is a countdown for the Fortnite CD single, and Taylor confirming herself that Fortnite was indeed the first single, and that the music video would be coming out the next day. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember the teaser for the Fortnite music video not having Fortnite in it at all, but instead Florida. Who knew? But guys, I swear, it's not gonna be a pop album. It's gonna be like Folklore and Evermore. Yeah, okay. Oh my god, it's a Torture Poets department merch drop. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets department, you'll remember Taylor Nation tweeting out how many hours until the Torture Poets department when there were 2 left. And they retweeted her doing the peace signs. Oh my god, it's a 2 a.m. surprise. The Torture Poets department is a secret double album. What the If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you've been convinced that every album that comes after this is going to be a double album because you're scarred and traumatized, and girl, I get it. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember the record store day where you could receive an exclusive letter from Taylor herself. You'll also remember on Apple Music when one of the lyrics of I Hate It Here had changed to No Midnight in Paris. Paris? That has nothing to do with the Torture Poets Department. Guys, it doesn't mean anything, okay? Just because her next stop on the Eras Tour is in Paris, like, she's not gonna change the set list to add this album. I can't believe you'd be so selfish to want that. Oh. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember this little callback to Midnights and the album immediately shattering every record you could possibly think of, becoming the first album on Spotify history to debut with an average of over 10 million streams per song on a 31-track album, getting 313 million first-day streams on the global Spotify chart, 127 million more than Midnights, an additional 181.9 million streams on its second day, becoming the fastest album to surpass 1 billion streams, debuting at #1 on Billboard with 2.6 million units, only behind Adele, and becoming the #1 vinyl and streaming debut, occupying the entire top 14 of the Hot 100, becoming the fastest album to surpass 2 billion streams, and a whole bunch of other things. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you will remember the Torture Poets Department cardigan, a merch drop, the Spotify exclusive hoodie, which later became available for everyone, this random merch drop, the store-wide restock, the lyric collection, the guitar, the lyric 2 collection, the folklore cardigan returning, the next Eras Tour collection, the greatest in the league collection, the autumn chill collection, the Midnights cardigan, the Torture Poets holiday collection, the holiday essentials, all of the cardigans returning and immediately selling out before you even had a chance to blink, the acoustic piano collection, the acoustic guitar collection, the new editions of the Lover Live from Paris vinyls, the Lover cardigan, the Fearless cardigan, the Torture Poets Department anniversary collection, the Summer 2025 collection, the Speak Now Taylor's Version anniversary collection. Hey, these kind of don't feel like the Torture Poets Department anymore. Why is that? Well, she's definitely not gearing up for TS12 because that would be the crowd chanting more. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember the first draft phone memo digital variants, and the live version bonus track variants, and the other Live from the Eras Tour digital variants, the Live from Paris digital variants, the Down Bad and Guilty as Sin acoustic version variants, the Fresh Out the Slammer and Fortnite acoustic version variants, the Live from Stockholm acoustic version variant, the But Daddy I Love Him acoustic version variant, and waiting all year for the physical version of the anthology, and the Eras Tour book. Wasn't asking for that, but we'll take it. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart became the fastest non-single to surpass 100 million streams in Spotify history. Oh look, it became the second single from the Torture Poets Department. And look, we got a music video. We're definitely not going to be thinking about something like this for the rest of our lives. Rep TV? Rep TV? If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember really cool stuff on the Eras Tour like this in Germany. That's 70,000 people inside the stadium and 50,000 outside of it. The fantastic way Vienna responded after their shows got canceled. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember Taylor being mother. Oh, look, another merch drop. The Snow Globe, the Black Friday sale, the Cyber Monday sale. Okay, including the CDs, the variants, the merch, carry 38 merch drops. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember the Eras Tour archive and then completely ignoring it until July 2025. We'll talk about that in another video. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember them filming the final shows in Vancouver and being haunted by it every single day since. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you will remember the Swift Effect on NBC featuring a whole bunch of really cool people, especially this guy. He looked kind of cute. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember Taylor Swift showing up at the Grammys 2025, not wearing white or black, and having 12 jewels in her earrings. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember Taylor Swift showing up via video message to the iHeartRadio Music Awards where she was definitely gonna announce Rep TV, and instead just gave us an additional performance from the Eras Tour movie. She said we hadn't seen it before, but I think she forgot that we watched every single show. It's okay, she worked really hard. If you've been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember clowning for the American Music Awards where Taylor is definitely gonna announce Rep TV this time, except she didn't show up. Okay, she's entitled to her privacy, but where is she? There's been no additional single. There's no Eras Tour documentary. Been a Swiftie since the Torture Poets Department, you'll remember Taylor Swift getting all of her masters back. Taylor finally acknowledged Rep TV and said she hadn't even recorded a quarter of it. Okay, didn't see that coming, but I guess debut's done. Love that, super excited. Wait a minute, what's that? There are 12 I's in the word this. And what's that second piece of paper under this one? Why does she have a new logo? Why is it glittery in the background? Oh my god, her merch shop is closed, everything is orange, and there's a countdown. Well, I guess the Torture Poets Department era is over. No third single. Rep TV?